Hey, hey.
Howdy. That was some insane footage you sent me from Central Park today.
Yes, the that is it a nor'easter? I'm not sure what you call it. The apocalyptic death snow has befallen the Northeast, and I have some family that live in Manhattan, so I got a very short video clip of Arctic tundra, just within a block or two of Central Park, I think.
That was bonkers. This is not the weather report. This is Dream Idiots. My name is Morris. The other fellow is Bryan. Each week, one of us tells a story to the other fella, and then we trade the next week. Sometimes it's from history, sometimes it's from current events, sometimes it's from our own wretched existence. Bryan, where can the folks find us?
You can, as always, check us out at dreamidiots.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We appreciate you tagging along with us for all our little escapades. Please like and share our stuff if you can. That'd be greatly appreciated. We did have in the past week, we had one of our biggest weeks of downloads in a while. So had a nice spike of traffic the last week, even though last week's was even a rerun. But we had a nice little arc of five or 600 downloads in the last 6 days.
Awesome. Yeah.
So thanks for doing that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a good episode too. The Bessie Coleman episode, I think, was the one you reran. It's a
Yep.
good one. I've got one announcement before we get started, Bryan, because it's 166 is the episode number, and I'm in charge this week, so to
All right.
speak. I do have one announcement, in that it was your birthday last week.
Oh, gosh.
So happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you.
I have a thing I do every year at Christmas is I get the family a new desk calendar of some type. And this year, it's a desk calendar of national parks and
Uh-huh.
places to visit in national parks. And the one that fell on your birthday, I had to bring it to your attention. Have you ever heard of a place called Bump Ass Hell?
No.
It's in the Lassen Volcanic National Park in Northern California.
Huh.
Bump Ass Hell. Now, I looked up Bump Ass, and in addition to being very fun to say, it could be from Old English, which means dweller in the hill, which is kind of
Okay.
funny
Uh-huh.
if you imagine the hills as giant buttocks. And then it could be a English Anglicization, bastardization of the French term for good step, which would be bon pas,
Okay.
but spelled Bonpas, bon pas, which bon pas, bon pas, bump ass is eventually how
Mm-hmm.
it become. So there you go, Bryan. Next time you're in Northern California, go check
Okay,
out
go check out Bump
the
Ass. Okay.
Bump Ass Hell Trail. It is rated a moderate trail, according to some websites I looked at. So happy belated birthday, Bryan.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bryan, today I've got a character from American history who I think you're going to adore.
Okay.
Sometime between 1876 and 1879, a fellow was born in either Maryland or Mississippi. That's as close we'll get for today's subject.
Not Michigan. Okay, good.
Yes, they're not that far apart from each other, Maryland and Mississippi. They both start with M, although Georgia has also been proposed as a place for his birth. Not entirely sure, but most folks seem to think the latest research is leaning towards Maryland. His name was probably George Baker Jr., and people seem to be 95% sure on that, George Baker Jr.
Okay.
His parents were, and this is most certain, freed slaves. Okay. So in his, I'm going to skip over his entire childhood and get right to his 1920s. Baker became interested in the New Thought movement via the teachings of Charles Fillmore's Unity Church. Now, we've talked a lot on here about interesting religious movements. In fact, I think my complimentary story yours last week was Signs Following about
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the snake handling cases. New Thought has a few primary beliefs that have guided it for the last 100 years. You may recognize some or all of them. I used Wikipedia to kind of distill these for me. It's one of two places where I used Wikipedia in this story. Here's just some basic things. One, God is omniscient and omnipresent. So
Okay.
God has infinite intelligence. The spirit is the ultimate expression of reality. I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah. Me neither.
True human selfhood is divine. That is an extension of God. It's very much like the Quaker philosophy that we all have a little bit of God in us, the spark of the
Mm-hmm.
divine. Sometimes in New Thought, they refer to it as the Father, Mother God. Divinely attuned thought that comes from God, is a force for good. Number five, all disease is mental in origin. Uh-oh, that's a bit problematic.
Yeah.
And this last one, right thinking has a healing effect. All right, the power of positive thinking, so to speak.
Okay.
Attitude is everything. It's something that I think most doctors kind of believe, even if they don't state so empirically, that having a good attitude about whatever you're going through is going to help you rather than harm you.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
New thought draws upon all world religions. It's not exclusive to Christianity. It is syncretic. Several individuals have emerged over the years who may fall into this category of new thought. Here's a small sample. Napoleon Hill, you ever heard that name?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, he wrote a book in 1937 called Think and
Think
Grow
and Grow
Rich.
Rich, right?
That's right.
And a well-known crackpot, but
W. Clement Stone, who was a co-author on a few pieces with Napoleon Hill, wrote a book in 1960 called The Success System That Never Fails.
hmm.
It would be remiss of me not to mention Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking from 1952. My dad was a big Norman Vincent Peale guy.
Mm-hmm.
Rhonda Byrne's The Secret from 2006 is also considered to be part of the New Thought movement.
Uh-huh.
And here's one for you. Singer, actress, minister Della Reese. Do you remember Della Reese?
Oh yeah, sure.
Touched by an Angel?
Mm-hmm.
That show, which critics hated but audience loved. Kind of a watered down version of Quantum Leap.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the butt of a great joke on Family Guy. Johnny, show us where the angel touched you. Um, Yeah, Della Reese was also a member of this New Thought group. One of the appeals of Fillmore, because remember we're talking about Charles Fillmore's Unity Church, for George Baker Jr., is that it addressed the racial injustices in America, which is very cool. The race mind, so word that Fillmore used, helped to perpetuate stereotypes and attitudes in all Americans. Using positive thought allowed African Americans to, quote, assert control over their destiny and to combat their feelings of powerlessness in white America.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all well and good, but it's not going to stop someone from not letting you sit at their counter at their restaurant.
Right. Or from
Um,
lynching you, right.
right. Conversely, white Americans could overcome their personal attitudes and actions by recognizing that positive thinking could eliminate racial hatred. Negative thoughts about anything, race included, yielded negative outcomes. All right. Baker continued to explore religion and undertake missionary work on behalf of the Unity Church. At some point in 1906 or 1907, George Baker Jr. started preaching in the Los Angeles area. And these were Baptist churches. And he came upon a guy by the name of Samuel Morris, who called himself Father Jehovah. Jehovah, actually.
Hmm.
And he made this claim at the end of one of his sermons that got him kicked out of more than one place, where he said, I am the Father eternal. He was claiming to be God. So Baker dubbed himself the messenger and became Father Jehovah's first follower. The duo added a third voice to the ministry, a guy by the name of John Hickerson, who called himself the Reverend Bishop St. John the Vine.
Uh-huh.
Who
Okay,
does he
rings a
think he
bell.
who does he think he is? Brian Eno? You know, Brian Eno has about a million middle names. Brian Jean LaSalle Baptiste de Eno. Anyway, surprisingly, with all these guys, that triumvirate didn't last long and it imploded over infighting, primarily over
Huh.
godhood. John the Vine
No,
denied
I'm God. No, you're
Jehovah's.
God.
John, John the Vine denied Jehovah's godhood, claiming that God was everybody. And Baker the Messenger disagreed with both of them to claim that he was God. And we are off.
Right.
Here we go.
The,
Baker
the,
set
the
out to
crazy train has left the building, right?
Baker set out to form his own church and preached in the South for a while before settling in New York in 1914. He was over in Brooklyn for a while, where his vision bore fruit and became one of the most progressive new churches in the country. Along with his new International Peace Church, Baker took a new name, and this is how I'll refer to him for the rest of the story. It's a pretty great name, Brian. Brian, around 1919, George Baker Jr. became and started calling himself the Reverend Major Jealous Divine. Have you ever heard this name?
No, not at all.
Now, I'm not sure where the major came from. Off the top of my head, I can only name one other major. That's Major Applewhite, who was a quarterback for University of
Right.
Texas college football team in the late 90s and early 2000s. Jealous, guess where jealous comes from?
The sin? Jealousy? I don't
Close, the
know.
Bible.
Okay.
Yes, it comes from Exodus
Okay.
23 through 6. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or the earth below or the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. I am a jealous God. And as for the name divine, well, there's lots of ways to see how this new name works. As an adjective, it means of a god. As a verb, it might mean to foretell. As a noun, it means a person who is of a god and can foretell. So that's some heavy shit there, Maynard. His
Yeah.
followers took him to calling him rather than the Reverend Major Jealous Divine. His followers took to
Yeah.
calling him Father Divine.
It's a mouthful, and it doesn't
Yeah,
really trip off the tongue very, very easily.
and if whatever the matter of his origins, John Zved points out, in of all places, his 1997 biography, specifically in the Dust Jacket only. I don't think he's actually mentioned in the book. I've mentioned this book before on the podcast. Space is the place, the lives and times of Sun Ra.
Hmm.
He says, Father Divine, like Sun Ra and Elijah Muhammad, made a lifelong effort to obscure many of the facts of his early life. And this is clearly evident, I think, by the way we've started the story. We don't quite know where he was born. We think we might have a good idea. We're not
Right.
sure, so forth and so on. Father Divine also married while he was in New York to a woman several years her senior. She also had an awesome first name, Penaniah. That's
Wow.
also from the Bible. Yeah, she was variously referred to by the followers as Sister Penny, Mother Penny, and finally, Mother Divine.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and we're going to get into some of the beliefs of the international peace movement here in a little bit. But in 1919, the congregation moved to Long Island and settled in Sayville, New York. And they lived commune style in a large house, allegedly sold to him by a man who wanted to irritate his former neighbors and lower the value of their property by having a black man occupy his former home.
Mm.
So, way to go. Nice.
Right. Right.
Nice. The congregation was not warmly welcomed by the locals, as you might imagine, um, because their gatherings would cause
Right.
throngs of people during the services to come out. But thanks to the seasonal nature of Long Island towns, think of the mayor from Jaws. Summer town needs summer dollars, chief. Many church members found jobs as house sitters for those very same houses
Oh, wow.
that
Okay.
people yeah, so that's what they would do in the off season. In the winter months they would just take care of people's houses.
Camp out. Right. Yeah.
Right. Funds of course were immediately turned over to Father Divine and the International Peace Mission. One one story told of neighbors being annoyed by Father Divine's loud rumbling wreck of a car. He had an old Hudson, so he got rid of it and he used those funds that his followers had earned to buy a brand new Cadillac, which pissed the neighbors off even more in an ostentatious display. How dare that black man drive a car like that? So they just
Right. Right.
hated the fact, I think, that a black guy drove a car. They had, like I said, large services. They fed lots of hungry people in need of a hot meal in food lines. And remember, Long Island back then was, I was out in the sticks. I mean, it was
Right.
farmland. It was farm country, and they started to attract at this time white congregants. Okay, so it was
Okay.
the first truly interracial religious movement in the United States,
Okay.
which is something. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the precepts of the International Peace Mission, and this is the second part that comes from Wikipedia, just because they did a great job at distilling it. And I looked up some of this in some other sources, which I'll talk about at the end, like I always do. Whew, it's problematic right off the bat, Brian. Number one, Father Divine is God.
Okay.
Okay, and that harkens back to the fight he had with John the Vine and what was that other fellow's name? I've already forgotten the other guy's name. Samuel Morris, Father Jehovah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Heaven is a state of consciousness,
Hmm.
which I think David Byrne later said heaven is a place where nothing ever happens. Unity of world's religions. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, Celibacy. You're expected to be celibate if you're part of this church. You were married to God and to the church, not to another person.
Okay. That throws a wrench into most cults. Okay.
If there were children, they were to be raised by assigned guardians.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to make my skin crawl. Go ahead.
This next part's interesting. Supports the presence of the U.S. flag and the use of the English language worldwide.
Okay.
No smoking, drinking, swearing, or receiving of gifts. Okay,
Okay.
that calls from a lot of Protestant religions, right? I mean,
Right.
or some that are considered to be sects, like Jehovah's Witnesses. You can't celebrate any holidays. Support of public education, that's a good thing.
Right.
Defeating racial barriers, that's a good thing. Communal property and ownership or donated goods and services from its members. I'll let that one sit for a minute.
All right.
Um, and then finally, and this is where it draws from other religions, gender segregation. I don't
Yeah.
know
So
if they're talking mainly
Jim
about worship
Jones. Yeah.
services
Right.
or what, but um, some interesting ideas there pulled down by some uh, not so interesting ideas. Right there.
Right.
I mean, there's some stuff there that's like, yeah, that sounds good. Whoa, wait, what? I'm sorry, what? What'd you say? Um, but that's kind of what they're going after. And they had an early alliance with the American Communist Party, but by the time of the McCarthy hearings in the 50s, they were completely anti-communist.
Hmm.
So they knew which way the wind was blowing, I think, at all times. Their father Divine did. By 1932, the IPM, that's what I'll call the International Peace Mission, had worn out their welcome in Sayville, New York, so they headed back into the city, Harlem to be precise. The Manhattan neighborhood would provide a base of operations for the next expansion, one into upstate New York. And this is where the big history of Father Divine comes into play. By 1935, a number of peace movement IPM congregationists acquired farmland in Ulster County, mainly along the Hudson River. Now, of course, Ulster County is named after the same place in Ireland, so it's very heavily Irish.
Hmm.
And this part of New York State includes New Paltz, Atwood, Marbletown, and Kingston, which of course is referred to in one of your favorite artists, Bruce Springsteen's song Hungry Heart. I met her down in a Kingstown bar. Chichester lies on the Ulster County border with Greene County to the north, Poughkeepsie and Dutchess County to the east. So there's some, reasonably sized cities, towns in this area. These Ulster communities that were purchased resemble the commune style arrangement seen out in Sayville on Long Island. As plots of land were owned by church members, they became property of the church and thus essentially the property of Father Divine.
Right.
But these homesteads were populated by blacks and whites. So it was still that extension of, you know, um, this interracial idea of the international peace movement.
Right.
And, there were some folks who worked for the church. Like, I think he had a lawyer who was a white guy who still lived in New York City, but he worked for the church and was a member of the church, but he didn't own a
Hmm.
homestead. He kept that a little bit separate. Um, Pinaniah, Mother Divine, died in the year 1943. And this was a year after they moved their headquarters from Harlem to Philadelphia, which, there's a lot of ideas I'm hearing from Quakerism coming into this. So I think being in Philadelphia made sense, but they relocated to Philadelphia. Her death was not made public for some time. Membership numbers were dwindling, but one important new member appeared, a young white woman from Canada named Edna Rose Richings. She had joined in Vancouver as a high school student. She was about 21, and she was also a member of the movement's organization for young women, one which had grown out of the choral group that would sing during services.
Hmm.
Bryan, prepare thyself. They were called, they were called the Rosebuds.
Okay.
The women of the chapter were to be,
Mhm.
quote, submissive, meek, and sweet, and, quote, have hearts where Christ alone is heard to speak.
Okay.
Okay, you're married, it's, like nuns,
Right.
or,
Right.
you're married
Right.
to the
Very,
church.
very typical. Right.
Rosebuds also took a lifelong pledge of, do you want to
Celibacy.
guess? Celibacy, virginity, that is correct. They had a specific uniform too, which isn't at all creepy. It consisted of a white blouse, blue skirt, blue beret, and a red blazer with the letter V stitched on the lapel.
God,
Do you want to guess what the V stood for?
I assume virgin.
Virgin, and not the airlines and not the record label.
Right, right.
There was also a men's group that has similar uniform. It was like blue trousers, white shirt, blue tie. That was called the Crusaders. I suspect it looked somewhat like an inverse image of my high school senior picture in the yearbook, where they made the men wear blue blazers and
Like
red
powder
bow
blue.
ties. Yes, it
I
was
recall those
awful.
pictures.
Um, so Edna Rose Richings balanced her duties as a rosebud and as a member of the movement's secretarial staff. And soon she would add wife of Father Divine to her resume.
Hmm.
She proposed to him, and the couple was married in a 1946 secret ceremony during a trip to Washington, D.C. Now, at this point, he was somewhere in his late 60s and she was 21.
Fair.
She also took a new name, Sweet Angel Divine, which sounds like a dessert.
All mode.
You get the coffee cake. I'm going to have the Sweet Angel Divine. The wedding did not become public knowledge for quite a while. In fact, the knowledge of Mother Divine the First's death and Sweet Angel Divine's marriage became public pretty much at the same time.
Hmm.
And Father Divine had a perfectly reasonable explanation, which became canon in the religion. Why did he marry a secretary decades his junior? Because rest easy there, everyone. Penaniah's spirit had entered Sweet Angel
Sweet Angel,
Divine's body.
of course.
Therefore, Father Divine was actually still married to the original Mother Divine. Got it?
Right. That's
So
just science. Right.
reincarnation and soul transport became part of the
Duh.
canon.
Right.
And it seems that the movement generally referred to Edna Rose Richings from here on out, and this is how I'll do it, as Sweet Angel Divine, or sometimes Mother, they called her Mother Divine as well.
Mhm.
Her story is actually told in the 1952 film Mother Divine 2, Divinier Than You. Um, Beginning in the 1950s, a young Midwest-based preacher visited the Peace Mission congregation on a regular basis. He had been heavily influenced by Father Divine's mission, and to a certain extent, his style of preaching and manner of dress. This young fella had, like Penaniah, who was a Methodist, left the Methodist Church because it wasn't progressive enough, particularly in matters of race and particularly in the state of Indiana. Remember, Indiana in the 20th century had the highest number of Klan members.
Of clan members, right, right. Which still seems weird to me. That doesn't make sense. But
well, it
yeah,
seems
I know it's
weird
true.
to me that the second number highest was here in Colorado, which is really, really strange.
Really? God.
Yes, I know. He now ran his own church separate from the Methodist church that he called the Community Unity Church, and it championed social programs and racial equality, much like Father Divine. He also had a multiracial flock coming from Indiana, which is amazing. After the Father Divine's bodily death in 1965, when he passed on, he approached Sweet Angel Divine with the desire to merge the two congregations, allowing him to take over as pastor. Unconvinced, Sweet Angel Divine said, "No thanks, we're good." And this back and forth would continue for several years. Like Sweet Angel Divine, this newcomer was white, and just as Mother Divine's spirit migrated bodies to her new home in a white Canadian woman decades her junior, Father Divine's spirit now resided in this young white dude from Indiana, or so the young white dude claimed.
Of course.
Sweet Angel was even more unconvinced after this revelation, so she told him to kick rocks. And he kicked rocks for a while, traveling as far as Brazil in search of a new home for his flock. He eventually found one in California. He found three, actually. The main one in San Francisco and two branches in Los Angeles and San Fernando. Before the move to California from Indiana, the preacher had rechristened his congregation, changing the name from Community Unity Church to the Wings of Deliverance. You ever heard
Okay.
of the Wings of Deliverance?
Sounds ominous, but no.
It sounds like a platoon that belongs in the Green Berets or a Judas Priest song. The building his flock used for worship at 10th and Delaware Street in Indianapolis had once been a synagogue Carved outside on the building's stone wall near the door, a single word remained legible, and that word was temple.
Okay.
The young fellow from Midwest and his congregation now had their new name, the People's Temple. Jim Jones was open for business.
Oh shit.
So perhaps, despite all of the great barriers that he broke down with racial equality, his greatest influence historically might be the fact that his biggest fan was Jim Jones. The last of the Ulster County properties was sold off in 1985, but that's a 50-year span, 20 years past Father Divine's own death. I'd call that a success
Right.
by any
By any measure, right.
stretch.
Right.
Yeah. Sweet Angel Divine died in 2017 at the age of 91. It is interesting to note that a New York Times article did refer to her as having taken over her husband's cult. She resided at the only remaining property still presently owned to this day by the International Peace Mission, Woodmont Estate, perched on a hilltop in Gladwine, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. The 73-acre grounds include a mansion, living quarters for church leadership, the Father Divine Library, and mausoleum. Let's close with a nice, concise list of 7 characteristics of a cult as provided by J.W. Ocker's 2024 book, Cult Following, which actually does not have a specific section on Father Divine and the international peace movement. He focuses on, of course, all the heavy hitters of the 20th century. Number 1, rules of the organization do not apply to the leader.
Yep. That's always number one.
And I think in this case, I'd give it a maybe a half yes, half no,
Right.
maybe.
Right.
2, the leader sees themselves as preternaturally unique and gifted. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, yes. Organization is isolated socially or geographically. I would say they tried to integrate geographically, but socially, yes. Yeah,
Right.
they
Right.
were isolated.
Yeah. Totally sequestered. Right.
And some of that is internal and some of it is external because a lot of people didn't want to mix races.
Right.
4, the organization acts according to urgent predictions of an impending world-changing event. I'm really not seeing that here. Charles Manson and Jim Jones and all these folks. Oh, and
Yeah.
with
The world
Dingleberry
is
out in
ending.
San
Right.
Diego. The world is ending. Marshall Applewhite with the Heaven's Gate cult.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get on board with us or things are going to be. I don't really see that here.
Right.
Organization number 5. Organization impoverishes the members by fundraising from their pockets and estates. Yeah, I think that happens here.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, organization expounds ideas that are an unoriginal mishmash of the teachings of other organizations. Yeah, they pull from everywhere. Reincarnation, sure. And number 7, and this is the one that is the funniest on his list, the organization has a boring ass name. Yeah, I guess.
Right.
It's,
Nondescript. It's like
International
it's what?
Peace Mission.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. I'd say that the IPM has a few characteristics that might lead to a cult designation, although, like a lot of things, I mean, started off with good intentions, and by the time it was over, was it as destructive as People's Temple? No. Or Heaven's Gate? No. Is there a minor league for cults? I don't know. It's hard to judge this as a white guy looking back on the early 20th century because I look back at it now and I'm saying, there's a lot of things wrong with this, but did a lot of good things too. I mean,
Right.
I don't know what to make of Father Divine, except to say he was a truly American character, I think.
Yeah. Certainly seems true. Yeah.
Yeah. Had you heard of Father Divine before this story?
I don't think I had actually. No.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude, and it is stunning. I went back and I looked. It's interesting how many times he's not mentioned in other books, with the exception of these sources. Well, not the first one. I used Harold Bloom's book, like I always do, from 1992, The American Religion: The Emergence of the Post-Christian Nation, to get a sense for Pentecostalism. Simon and Schuster, New York. Tiffany Benedict Brown had an online article from January 30th, 2014 from historicindianapolis.com, Indianapolis then and now, 10th and Delaware. David Chichester from 1988, Salvation and Suicide. Jim Jones, The People's Temple in Jonestown, Indiana University Press in Bloomington, Indiana. William Grimes, March 14th, my mom's birthday. 2017, Mother Divine, who took over her husband cult, dies at 91 from the New York Times. Jeff Gwynn's 2017 book, and this is probably the definitive book on the event, The Road to Jonestown, Jim Jones and the People's Temple, Simon and Schuster, New York. Carlton Maybe's very, very interesting, tons of photographs in here, 2008 book. I get the sense this was written as a dissertation or a thesis or a historical monograph or something. Promised Land, Father Divine's Interracial Communities in Ulster County, New York. It focused entirely on the 1930s. Big book. Purple Mountain Press from Fleischman's, New York. J.W. Ocker's 2024 book, Cult Following, the Extreme Sects That Capture Our Imaginations and Take Over Our Lives, from Quirk Books of Philadelphia. John Zved's 1997 book, Spaces, the Place, the Lives and Times of Sun Ra, Pantheon Books of New York. And finally, another book, which was just instrumental. In fact, this is the most used book in this story. Jill Watts's 1995 book, God Harlem, USA, The Father Divine Story, from University of California Press, Berkeley. I get the sense this was probably a doctoral dissertation that was turned into a book.
Uh-huh.
And it is very detailed, very well written, and a very strong timeline throughout, for as strong as I think you get. And I think Jill Watts was the first person to say, nah, it was Maryland, it wasn't Mississippi,
Uh-huh.
because she really did some hardcore research for this. And that is the story of a very brief look at Father Divine and the International Peace Movement.
Cool. Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
in America,
Well,
man.
God bless America. Should we break into song now or something? These
I don't know.
cults. I don't know.
Let's break into a curse word of the week instead.
Okay. So kind of have two here, and I'll explain why. We're gonna shift gears from a very clear intellectual endeavor that you have offered up, and now we're gonna shift over to this. So
Yay!
we've joked at length on this podcast in the past about how taking a joke and flogging it to death pretty much exclusively for our own enjoyment. I mean, there are jokes that are intended to make the audience laugh, and then there are jokes that are intended to infuriate or irritate the audience. And that's a practice that you and I both seem to engage in. And I've decided that is a practice I'm now referring to as joker baiting. So, in conjunction with the concept of joker baiting, I have a short story. I think you'd agree. We'd all agree that body functions are funny, and farts are pretty much at the top of the list of things that are amusing to some, but something that others might just find irritation or just be nauseated by.
Hmm. Hmm.
When we're children, we learn that farts are funny and we do them to make others laugh on the playground, for instance. But we also quickly learn the lesson that we have to be strategic. Maybe farting in church is ill advised. It's all about timing. Sitting in the back
Hmm.
of a classroom for an exam, let her rip. Trapped in the back seat of a station wagon with your grandmother on a long road trip, no bueno. Uh,
Because
so,
little old ladies can surprise you.
and their sense of smell is the last thing to go. And so we also had to play that game of shifting uncomfortably from one cheek to the other to see if we can let one slide when the timing is bad, or even worse, you pin the butt cheeks together and let fly with something that sounds a little bit like an elephant trumpeting that sound.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it was on one such occasion that I learned that I have a special skill. I don't precisely recall what the occasion was, but I know that I had perhaps one too many chili dog on this day.
Oh
Uh,
God.
the troops were anxious, nervously gathering in number along the border. But I was resolute that day. No noxious fumes were going to escape my 8-year-old torso on this day. So I clenched my butt cheeks as hard as I could, and I held it for 10 seconds or more. There was a few moments of gurgling and my body deciding how to process this new information. Then, to my delight, I quietly burped. Crisis averted. The need to pass gas suddenly waned. Now, even my childhood brain, I knew that I hadn't forced the exact same pocket of gas out the other end. I mean, that's crazy. It hadn't rocketed up every inch of my intestine,
It's
but
not how it
seemingly,
works.
seemingly, I had managed to draw it back in and forced out other gas out the top. I was a genius. Over the next several years, I used this skill on many occasions: dates, graduations, formals, funerals. The stress of what if I need to fart was gone. More than one girlfriend would comment on how terrible my breath could be. Connection, maybe? By the time I reached adulthood, I did sort of decide I had dreamt my special skill, imagined it. Nevertheless, that's when the joker baiting started. On 3 or 4 occasions at least, sometime well into adulthood, when laying next to a girlfriend in bed or when cooking a meal, I would burp. I would do this solely so they might say, gross, did you just burp? This was merely chumming the water, baiting the hook. I might have to do it several times before they would go for it. Finally, they would say, did you just burp in my face? Then the game was on. I'd say, well, it could have been worse. That was actually a fart that I forced out the other end. The smart ones would roll their eyes and say nothing. The others would insist that I was crazy, that forcing farts out as burps wasn't a thing. I was being an asshole, and it was not a thing, and it was completely gross, and I couldn't prove that I had done it. So there, that's final. Just drop it. I'd say, well, you claim to be double jointed and that you're lactose intolerant. You can't prove that either. It would usually end with me being called an asshole, and then we'd have the same plight a few days later when I burp the next time. So, I find, I'm now in my 56th year of life, as you mentioned, and I'm totally on the fence. Do I have this skill? Do you? Ever had a burp that tasted or smelled terrible? If so, you too might be fart bedextrous.
uh, are you channeling the ghost of Lepetamaine, Brian? Fart bedextrous. I don't even know how to respond to that.
Just some
Joke
silliness.
Joker baiting, is that bait like baiting the
Ma-
hook
ma-
or
masturbating a joke.
masturbating? Okay, all right. I wasn't sure which one that would go. Go
It
away,
could
baiting.
be it could be master joking, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure which one's better. I think Joker
Uh,
baiting's funnier.
every now and then, one of my brothers-in-law will just, when someone does something stupid, he'll just randomly kind of shout out from Idiocracy. He'll shout out, "Go away, baiting!" Uh, and that's how we do things here at Dream Idiots, from
Hmm.
the sublime to the ridiculous and back again.
Right.
Um, Thanks, Brian. That was good. I hope you had a good birthday over the weekend.
I did. It was
Good.
good.
And you have not frozen to death because Texas has not gotten hit too terribly hard.
It was like 75 degrees today. It was, I was in shorts all day.
I'm in shorts right now and I'm in Colorado.
So all good.
Um, so we will be back next time with another new episode with Brian in charge. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging in there. Thanks for being good to each other. Thanks for being proactive in your local politics and government and getting others to do the same. It's the only way we're going to get out of this situation. So I don't know what to say after that.
I don't know either. Please
All
check out
right.
dreamidiots.com. Like, share, subscribe our stuff. We do actually have a mailing address now. So if you want to drop us a card, send us money, send us a story idea. That physical address is on our website. And you can send us a story idea through the contact us page as well. Listen to the whole back catalog. And we appreciate you hanging in there with us.
Do you want to send us a burp in an envelope? Go ahead. That'd
Or
be
fart, either one.
well, you said that, not me. All right. Thanks, folks. Have a good one. Be good to each other.